Alright guys and gals, this is a long playing review for Bruce Lee on the Amstrad CPC, released by US Gold in 1984. And wow, it's taken me a long time to get around to such a popular and beloved game. A hugely successful, influential and important game in the mid-80s, and now a fondly remembered simple old game that I'm told still stands the test of time today. Now originally this was a game made by Datasoft, an American company, in 1983 for the Atari 8-bit range, with the main coder being Ron Fortier with graphics by Kelly Day. This was then converted to the Commodore 64 in a slightly improved version which caught the eye of US Gold in the UK, who at the time imported a lot of US made games over to the UK and Europe, which is where and how they got their name. And they had a good relationship with Datasoft, also bringing over the Goonies and Zorro games, quite similar to their relationship with Access Software that brought us Beachhead and Raid Over Moscow. Anyway, alongside the Atari, Commodore 64 and Amstrad versions, this was converted to at least 8 other systems, and many of you AMS fans though may have encountered this game on a compilation. There are at least 6 the Amstrad version appeared on. Anyway, let's kick things off. So yeah, I found this a relatively short and fairly easy game to beat. I'm sure many of you probably feel the same, but I had really good fun doing it. Anyway, here's the loading screen, which is okay, a little bit messy, but hey, I'll take it over nothing. And a pretty simple title screen as well. But with some nice sounding kind of oriental kind of music. Does the job alright. Not the most spectacular sounds you've ever heard, but hey, I'll take it. And we also get some options on the next screen here, and pay attention that you can have 2 players, and you can also select player 2 as an opponent, which means you can have the second player playing as one of the enemies in the game, the Green Yamo, and you can use him to hinder the progress of player 1 as Bruce. So I can imagine lots of fights breaking out in bedrooms between brothers, sisters or friends or whatever, and we will show some footage of that at the end of the video. Yes. Right, I think we'll start things up here. Here we go. Here we are. Look at that, those lovely, bright, bold, colourful graphics there. And the sprites moving around at a really nice fast pace as well. So, basically what you have to do in this game is collect lanterns. I'm not sure why they sort of chose lanterns, but this was the early days of computing, and games were generally a lot simpler because they had to work on a lot of those earlier systems that perhaps had less memory and stuff like that. And oh, look at that, the Green Yamo and the Ninja are fighting. So on every screen you have 2 opponents. The Black Deadly Ninja with his sword, and the Yamo in green there, which is who's a little bit tougher to defeat. So you can usually just jump around them and avoid them. And we're going to try and do this as quickly as possible. But if you want to fight them, you can do if you're at a standstill, hit the fire button, you do a punch. But if you're moving, you do a really nice looking flying kick. And there's several hits they have to take. So I think the Yamo in green takes 4 hits to kill, whereas the Ninja takes 3 hits. Right, so what we're doing here is collecting lanterns. A certain lantern or a number of lanterns will open up an entrance or exit. To the far right there of the screen there is an exit that will be opened up later. Where I am just now, if you actually crouch and go in a prone position, you can actually glitch through that wall, believe it or not, and save yourself a huge chunk of the game. So I'm just trying to get them out of the way there. So in this long play, I will show you 3 well-known glitches and exploits you can use in Bruce Lee. So they're going into the prone position to glitch through the wall, to the right, very bottom right of the screen here. I'll show you this as a bonus at the end of the video. I can't do that now because otherwise we'll miss most of the game. And again, I will show you the 2-play action as well. Oh look, There you go. We can now drop through there after collecting all the lanterns. And similarly here, collecting lanterns will open up walls and passageways. You don't have to sometimes you don't have to collect all the lanterns, but it's just advisable to do that anyway. Plus, you need to build your score up because I will show you 2 other glitches and exploits. One of which is the 99 lives exploit, and you need to rack up a bit of a score for that. I will describe that later in the video. And the third and final exploit and glitch I found is a jump through a gap that you're not supposed to be able to do on the penultimate screen. There you go. But we will do this long play anyway without losing a life. It's not an overly tough game, and I think many of you have beaten it yourselves, which is why it perhaps appeals more and sticks in the mind as a pleasant memory. It's funny that, isn't it? But there you go. But yeah, as you can see, guys, this is a cross between a platformer, puzzler. Puzzle is stretching it a little bit there. I mean, collect a lantern, it'll open up a passageway. There's not too much brain power needed, apart from just carefully choosing your steps and where you go. And also a beat 'em up. So we've got a platformer, beat 'em up, and maybe a puzzler. There's not a great amount of beat 'em up action, let's be honest. And to be honest, you're better off avoiding the enemies as much as you can and just jump through and move as fast as you can. Now, here on this level, or room, if you walk over those pads, they trigger a blast of a flame or furnace, I don't know, or steam. I'm not quite sure what that is. You can use that to kill enemies. A little bit of tight timing there needed. And also here we now have these dreaded, I don't know what you would call them. Those just a few pixels, a few white pixels that you have to jump over. Maybe the electricity bolts, I don't know. Or some kind of sharp thing that would chop you up, chop your feet off at the ankles. Who knows? Anyway, there's waterfalls to climb. I think they're waterfalls. They look like waterfalls, but they're now moving upwards. So I don't know. Energy waves? I'm not quite sure what they are. So yeah, one thing I do like about Bruce Lee in terms of being a platformer is there's no fall damage. So for whatever height you drop from, like from here, you're not gonna die. I hate fall damage in platform games, and I think it should be abolished in all platformers personally, including the classic Manic Miner. Yes, I'm looking at you, Manic Miner. But yeah. So, the coders of this game. So, coding was handled by a company called Time Data Limited, who also ported a guilty pleasure of mine, a game called Mounty Mix Death Ride. What a great name for a game. Which I did a long play and review of on my channel a while back. But like I did in that video, I tried to find out who Time Data were and the names of the coders, etc. But I couldn't really find anything. I found a couple of possible names linked with Time Data games on an obscure ZX Spectrum site. These being Anthony M. Scott and Kevin Williams. We can find the former listed for Bride of Frankenstein, which was a game from Areola Soft, which also put out Mounty Mix. So that could be a possible lead or whatever. But that's about it, folks. I did look for either of those coders on the CPC Power website to see if they've done any other games. So apart from Anthony and Bride of Frankenstein, I can't find anything else. So who knows? Maybe one day we might see one of the coders pop up in the comments here on this video one day, and we'll say hello and have a nice chat with them. Who knows? Anyway, so other versions of this game. So yes, at least 8 other versions apart from the Amstrad, Commodore 64 and Atari 8-bit ones. But we'll start with the original one, the Atari 8-bit. You know, the classic and original is very, very similar, of course, to the Amstrad version. But jumping and falling is a lot more floaty and there seems to be less gravity. Oh, see, that door's now open. So that's the door you could glitch through, the prone position, which we'll see at the end of the video. And also, enemies seem to respawn quicker on the Atari 8-bit original. And it also has some minor extra sound effects. But I'll probably take the Amstrad version over the Atari original, just because the Amstrad has much nicer graphics in terms of the use of colours, It's bold, bright, and colourful. The Commodore 64, which was the first port of the game, is pretty much identical to the Atari original, but with better sound effects and music, courtesy that darn SID chip again. And yes, the music on the title screen is much better. The Amstrad still has the bolder, brighter colours. So for me, it's a toss-up between the Commodore 64 version and the Amstrad version as to which is the best one. Do you prefer the better sound effects in-game and the music on the title screen? Or do you prefer the nicer looking colours and graphics of the Amstrad? It's up to you. ZX Spectrum version is kind of mostly black and white with splashes of colour. It actually looks quite nice and tastefully done for the most part, for the Specky. But the plain area isn't as wide and it's in a different aspect ratio. So it looks kind of weird to my eyes in a way. But it plays really good. Bruce Lee's sprite is okay apart from his running animation, which is really odd. In a way, I'd probably say the Specky version is the least accurate, but it's still really good fun to play. It also appeared on the Apple II, a computer that most of us in the UK probably never came across. And it's a good port, given the limitations of the system. Very bright graphics, almost as nice and bold as the CPC one. I'm actually impressed by the Apple II. It also appeared on the BBC Micro, and oh dear, very flickery sprites, even more basic looking graphics, but it kind of plays okay. But probably the BBC has the weakest port. Right, okay, I will talk more on the other versions. There's a few other versions we haven't got to yet in a second, because we're now coming up to the 99 lives glitch and exploit you can use. So on this screen here, you will see, on the next screen, I'm just racking up some points here. I'll explain why in just a second. There you go, punchy. Here we are on the screen. Here, see those yin-yang symbols? If you collect them, you get a bonus life. So, what can we do here? So, the 99 lives thing. So, first of all, you cannot lose a life before getting to these yin-yangs. You must be on at least 4 lives when you get there, because it's all to do with the lives counter. You must also have hit a score of 40,000 points, because this grants you 1 extra life itself. As you can see there, we're now on 39,050 points. And I think that's the 3rd time we've just collected... was that the 4th? I can't remember. Anyway, right. Now, on the screen of the yin-yangs, you can collect them up to 5 times going off and on the screen again. Then they no longer appear. So make sure on the 5th time that the number of lives shows as 9, essentially. So that's the 4 starting lives, plus the bonus life at 40,000 points, plus the 4 times you've collected the yin-yangs for 4 extra lives. Equals 9 lives. So, that was the 4th time we've got the yin-yangs. We now have to get our score to 40,000 points. We're on 39,950 now. There you go, 40,000. We've got 9 lives. Let's see what happens when we collect the yin-yangs. We now have 99 lives, or falls, as it says there at the top right of the screen. So, basically, it turns the life count, or the fall counter, from 9 lives to 99 due to a coding mishap, which I think you can read more about on like the CPC Power website as to how that was caused in the code. So there you go, we now have 99 lives. But we're doing this as a no-death run anyway, so we're not really going to use that exploit for anything. I'm just showing you it. So, other versions of the game then, quickly. We've also got the MSX version, which plays a little slow, but for once it's not a Specky port, despite it also having the same sort of compressed width that the Specky version does. But it's not as good as the Atari C64 or CPC versions. And it's also arrived on PC-DOS, another decent port, with the weirdly with the Apple II colour scheme. So it's up with the CPC version in terms of bold, bright colours, but I think I'll stick with the Amstrad version. Now, a few obscure systems here. Bruce Lee appeared on the PC Junior. And I forgot to mention here, guys, as well, this is the hardest room in the game. And if you can get through that without losing a life, well done. So, obscure system. This appeared on the PC Junior which is a home computer produced and marketed by IBM in about March 84 to March 85, and is intended as a lower cost variant of the IBM PC with hardware capabilities better suited for video games in order to compete more directly with other home computers such as the Apple II and Commodore 64, and it flopped. So this version is like the PC-DOS, but with a much worse colour scheme. There's another glitch and exploit in this room here. You can actually jump through a gap that you're not supposed to on the right there. So what you need to do is climb up this section here and get Bruce's feet so they're just where I am there, which is like basically a pixel down into that red bit. It's kind of hard to explain, but just look very carefully when I climb up here again, where Bruce's feet are within the red. And if you get the right position, jump up a little bit more, so it's just there. Not quite managed it there. It might save you a difficult section, but it might take you a lot of time just to get it right. So you might want to avoid this. And there you go. I just did it there. So that's another way to glitch and exploit a room, basically, and save yourself a bit of hassle. And we should be now on the final room against the demon. Avoid the demon, collect the final lantern, and you have won the game. GG. And Bruce is happy. I believe that's a pile of gold flashing in the background of that sort of castle, I think. I don't know. Congratulations, anyway. And there's Bruce jumping for joy. And there you are. And then now the game still loops, so you can carry on and try and get a high score if you want to. So what I'll show you here is the glitch and exploit to get through this door that's locked currently. So just all you have to do is go in the prone position and it will warp you straight through. You can go back again, go forward again, and there you are. Other versions very quickly. This also appeared on the PC-88. Which is a Z80-based 8-bit computer from NEC sold in Japan and sold very well there. And this version is slow with horrible colours and horrendously flickery sprites and is almost as bad as the BBC version, if it wasn't for the graphics and layout being identical. This also appeared on the FM7, a similar Japanese computer to the PC-88. Truly horrific music on the title screen. Plays like a faster, less flickery PC-88 version. So here, we're choosing 2 players and opponent. So we have 1 player controlling Bruce here on the left. So that's me pausing. That's me just testing the controls there. So there's me controlling Bruce. If you wait a bit, Green Yamo appears and player 2 can control him. There you go. That's me controlling Green Yamo. Unfortunately, a bit of clash of controls there. So they're both punching at the same time, but at least it shows you it working. The Green Yamo seems to move less gracefully through the air for some weird reason. There you go. There was also apparently a port of Bruce Lee to the Sharp X1 computer, but it doesn't look like it was ever released. And there you go. And there was also apparently an iPhone port done by Elite Systems, but I've never seen that running, and I probably wouldn't suggest you support them. With their IPs being released on new systems. Anyway, enough about Elite. And as you can see there, Green Yamo can really hurt Bruce. But Bruce can fight back and knock off Green Yamo. But the Green Yamo will reappear. Well, you should do. There he is. And you can start all over again. And if you stop controlling the Green Yamo, then the computer will eventually take over and he'll start attacking Bruce for you. So there you go. That is Bruce Lee on the Amstrad CPC. As for magazine reviews, Bruce Lee was reviewed in the November 1985 issue 2 of Amstrad Action magazine, and well, they liked it a lot. They praised the background level graphics, although they look pretty simple and dated only a few years later. They found it very addictive and liked the 2-player mode and dynamic. They did criticise it for being maybe a bit easy, and they rated the graphics at 89%, Sonic 71%, grab factor 92%, staying power 83%, with an overall AA rating of 88%, which seems about right and fair for 1984 to 85, especially when most of the Amstrad games were stuff from Amsoft. As for my review, Despite the simplicity and shortness of the game, it's still really addictive. I still want to go back for a quick blast like I do with something like Chuckie Egg, which is also a fast-moving platformer, but also with perfect controls. Bruce controls fantastically, as does Chuckie Egg. Response to joystick movements have to be instant in platform games for it to be right, and getting the jump curve right of the sprite is also really difficult. It's like getting the right feel of gravity that the really good platforming games like Manic Miner, Chuckie Egg and Bruce Lee just do so well. And yeah, the games nail it, which is why they stood the test of time, despite them being really early examples. Maybe Chuckie Egg for me is the better, purer platformer for its faster speed, but Bruce Lee adds in simplistic beat-em-up and puzzling elements throughout. Whilst it doesn't at all master those two extra gameplay styles, the beat-em-up and the puzzling, they're a welcome addition that give the game longevity. And that 2-player mode is nuts and a welcome addition. So for my final score, I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. What's your score? Let me know in the comments below. Have I missed any other exploits or glitches or anything else you want to mention? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you very, very much for watching. And I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.